Welcome back to Football Frenzy. Let's head over to the Buckeye State, where it is another Twin States League matchup. Both teams looking to get big victories late in the football season.
Absolutely, Josiah. And Marietta came into this one at 5-3 and was looking to snap a 2-game losing streak, while Point Pleasant at 3-2 was on a 2-game winning streak.
Well, let's go right out to Don Drum Stadium with the Tigers facing the Big Blacks. Drew Warden takes the low snap in the shotgun. Then he throws to Owen Riley in the end zone for the touchdown. Marietta strikes first. It was a dime. They take a 7-0 lead late in the first quarter. Moving to the middle of the second quarter, Warden back to pass again. He takes a shot downfield for Riley again, and he makes the catch before he gets taken down for a big gain. Then he lets us know about it, signaling the first down. Late in the first half, Caden Hill hands it off to Connor Hatt. He gets stacked up, and the ball pops loose. It gets picked up by Riley, who's having a busy half, as you can see. He'll get a huge return out of it as he works his way past midfield, down the sideline before being taken down inside enemy territory. It then leads to Warden handing it off to Seth Britton. He cuts it back and bulldozes a defender on his way to the end zone for the touchdown. Marietta leads it 17-0. Point Pleasant, though, trying to fight back on the ensuing drive. Hill steps up. He'll throw it deep downfield to Reese Hunt, who makes the catch as Riley tried to knock it away. He would get points in that drive. However, Marietta would pull away for the 24-3 victory over Point Pleasant. Andrew.
All right, Josiah, let's head out to Belpre. Senior night over there as the Golden Eagles were taking on a tough Eastern Eagles team. On the first offensive play of the game, it's Tyler Hill from Eastern taking the jet sweep handoff, making multiple defenders miss as he sprints all the way to the house to give the Eagles an early 7-0 lead. This was on the first play, Josiah. It kept going. Still early on in the first here, it's Trayvon Bears taking the handoff and punching it in from the 3-yard line, score to extend the Eagles lead to 14-0. Halfway through the first, it's Eastern again as quarterback Ethan Edwards slings it out to Ethan Murphy, and he tries to make a move, almost gets dragged down, but stays on his feet and reverses field to take it to the end zone on what looked like a crazy play. 21-0 Eagles lead here. With the score now 47-0 in the second quarter, the Golden Eagles showing their fighting spirit as Luke Davis connects with Chase Mays, who has a nice run after the catch to convert on a 4th down. A few plays later then, it's Alex Parker taking that jet sweep, and he is into the end zone from 2 yards out to cut the lead to 47-7. Belpre would go on to lose this one, though, by the final score of 55-13 as they drop to 1-8 on the season. Josiah.
Now out to Frontier High School on senior night, where the Cougars take on the Monroe Central Seminoles. We go to midway into the first quarter. True King with the snap. He's going to look and throw it, but it is intercepted by Chance Allen for the Seminoles. Next play, Tucker Howell takes the snap, and he's going to take off along the sidelines. Jeffrey Triplett will try to catch him, but he will fall just short as Howell will take it all the way to the end zone for the Seminoles. He is in for the touchdown. That puts them up 14-0. Late in the first, Cougars trying to respond. Here is King looking. He tries to find Luke Mendenhall, but it falls short. It's picked off by Logan Powell, who runs it all the way back before getting taken down by Caleb Kirkpatrick, just before the end zone. Seminoles would score in the next play, put them up 35-0. Then early in the second quarter, Cougars just trying to get something going here. It's a good pass from King to Kirkpatrick, who takes it for a decent gain here. However, the Cougars would fall to the Seminoles 49-0. And in some other football action, the St. Mary's Blue Devils handled their business on the road in dominant fashion, taking down Magnolia by the final score of 41-8. And over in Ohio, the Waterford Wildcats pulled off a gritty win by defeating the Trimble Tomcats in a defensive battle by the final score of 14-6. Then down in Elizabeth, the Warwick County Tigers with a dominant shutout victory over Bellsville. They take this one, yes, you read it correctly, 73-0. In Mason, the Wahama White Falcons with a decisive victory of their own. They take it 50-14 over South Harrison. Well, coming up next on Football Frenzy, we'll hear from the winning coach of tonight's game between Warren and Fort Fry, Warren head coach Jimmy Payton.
Is it off the car back.